I'm going to jump in now, talk about Azure accounts and subscriptions. It's kind of important that you have an understanding of this, because it can be a little bit daunting when you're first getting into an Azure tenant from the start, and how what a subscription is, how you manage a subscription and all the rest of it. Basically, a subscription, you can have many subscriptions within your tenant. And a subscription is really, it's a method of payment for a start. So, you might have an EA agreement, so that would cover the actual billing within your subscription. But you could also have, a pay-as-you-go subscription, to where you can put a cap on it every month and not go over. All of your Azure services are associated with one subscription. You keep track of the usage and spending for. If let's say you wanted a different subscription for each department within your organization, that's one way of having that. The billing and the administration would be at the subscription level. So someone in the IT department, if they had their own subscription, and then your HR department had their own subscription, they wouldn't automatically have access to each other's subscriptions. You can apply quotas at the subscription level. And there are quotas that are imposed on subscriptions from Microsoft. But if you needed to get past those, they're all pretty high, but if you wanted to get past those, that's also possible by request from Microsoft. So management portals, there's a few of these, and this can also be a little bit confusing. The main one now is the second from the bottom there, the Azure portal, which is the Azure Resource Manager portal. And the Resource Manager model is the newest sort of implementation of Azure in the cloud. It's it's based on new compute infrastructure, and it carries on from what was the Azure Management Portal at the bottom there. That was the sort of version 1, generation 1 of Azure. And that management portal is still very much valid. In fact, there are still some services that are only available in the classic portal, the management portal, but they do sort of, they coexist with each other. So you can have services that are provisioned in the classic portal, but also have, next generation virtual machines that are running in the Resource Manager portal. But those are the two, from a user and an admin perspective, those are the two sort of, day-to-day portals that you would administer your Azure services in. The Azure Account Portal, this is where you would edit subscription details, enroll in new features that are coming up in Azure, and make them available to these portals at the bottom. And then the Enterprise Azure Portal at the top, that's really where you manage your tenant. You manage the access to it, you manage accounts, your subscriptions are managed through that portal. And generally, that's it's a small group of people that use that. I mean, I don't even use that very often, because when I'm going to a customer, that's not really my concern, or it shouldn't really be available to me anyway. I don't really need to see their usage summaries. The main thing is that they provision me some access through there, so I can go to the resources at the bottom. The account and subscription management. Again, this is just a very brief overview. At the top there, you've got the account admin. He's that person is the one person who's managing the tenant. He can create the account in the account center. You can create and manage subscriptions with that account, and then manage your Azure Active Directory, manage the accounting of that, those subscriptions. And each subscription only has one service administrator, and it's an important sort of concept, really. You can change it, of course, but the general idea is like one subscription, one service admin. Yeah, from a network perspective, we'll get into that a little bit later, but yes, you can have resources that exist within one subscription talk to resources in another, but the subscription is really it's a logical boundary of basically billing and administration. So you can grant others access to different subscriptions, but by default, if you're your Azure AD tenant, you only have one Azure AD tenant. right?
You never defined the word tenant. You used
Okay.
it several times, but never defined
So a tenant is what you, so that's your piece of the data center, right? That's your share in the grand scheme of things.
That's your account admin.
He would be the tenant administrator. So all of this is in your tenant, right? The next level down from your tenant, within your tenant, is your subscriptions, and you can have multiple subscriptions. But this at the top, or this, the Azure Active Directory, there's only one of these for your whole tenant. So the types of accounts you can have, you can have a tenant account, a Microsoft account, or an organizational account. And your Azure account is basically just set up within that tenant. So there's no sort of outside account associated with it. Microsoft account, that can be an Outlook.com Live ID or Hotmail account. That can be integrated with your Azure Active Directory. And then you can have your organizational account, like I would have Mick at catapultsystems.com. So you can have, you'll probably see this a bit easier later on, but if I spin up a tenant in Azure, I can just go in there and create, let's say I call my tenant Bootcamp, right? It would actually be bootcamp.onmicrosoft.com, right? Then my user account would be, within that Azure AD. Nothing to do with my email address or my email account, which is my Microsoft account. But I could invite my Microsoft account to become a member of that subscription and have access to it. Okay, so you can send an invitation out to, in fact, you can send an invitation out to anybody you want and invite them into your tenant, from something called, it's called B2B or B2C, business to business or business to consumer, and it's basically a service within Azure which allows you to basically invite external people or other account types into your environment, into your Azure environment.
So if you're already federated with Office 365, does that then tie into Azure too already, or they are separate until you link them?
So if you sign up to an Office 365 subscription, by default, even if you don't know it, you are provisioned with an Azure Active Directory under the covers. So yeah, you would then tie that into, you would use that same Azure AD would become your Azure AD for your Azure tenant, basically, right? So a lot of companies, they signed up to Office 365 some years ago, right? Now they want to use Azure. Well, they just need to federate their Office 365 with Azure, and yeah, it's basically the same Active Directory that you're using. So, let me see if I can show you from a subscription perspective real quick. So this is the Resource Manager portal, and this is the Classic portal. So I don't know how many of you are familiar with this. So if I go into the settings in the Classic portal here, you've got your subscriptions all listed out. We only have one, this in our tenant. One that I can see. We actually have a few, but I'm only able to see the Austin Azure subscription. If I go into the Resource Manager portal, same thing here. You can see our current spend. You can go in here and get a whole wealth of breakdown information. It's a little bit slow. Look at resource costs. Should be able to see Alonzo in here. Do you have anything in this one? You have any resources in here?
Yeah.
I thought so. This is just not alphabetically ordered. Anyway, you can see, who's using what here and what actual resources are being used and what they're consuming. So this virtual machine, for example, that's spend per so far this month. SQL Server here. So this is really resource cost per resource. The Azure Resource Manager implementation sort of introduced this concept of resource groups, and we'll get into the details of those a little bit later. But these are great because they're kind of one level below your subscription now, so you can actually create a resource group. You can put all the resources related to a particular service into that same resource group, and you can apply administrative and an admin boundary to that as well. But yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit later on. These are some of the the common purchasing options. Again, most companies have an EA with Microsoft, so you get good pricing based on that. If you just wanted to set up a pay-as-you-go account for dev purposes, you can spin one up with your own credit card. MSDN accounts, and if you've never had one before, you can have a free trial with I think $200 worth of free usage for I think it's 30-day limit, but it's pretty good to have a play around with. This is just showing some of the possibilities with subscriptions. You can have development subscriptions, one for test labs, Q&A, or of course production, and within those subscriptions you would have the services deployed. Likewise with sort of line of business subscriptions, if you wanted one per department. Again, we spoke about that a little bit earlier, but you can sort of segment however you like, really.